Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So whatever happened to DACA? Whatever happened to DACA? Do you remember DACA? This was the Deferred Action Childhood Arrivals. This allowed certain, I think it was roughly 1 million kids to stay into the country. They were brought here illegally. Yes, they were brought here illegally, but they were brought here through no fault of their own. And this is, for all intents and purposes, the only country they've ever known. Whatever happened to DACA? Democrat is a party that screams about identity. Whatever happened to DACA? Now, if you remember, Donald Trump gave a certain deadline that they needed to get legislation passed by that particular deadline. Otherwise, they wouldn't call it a deadline. They would call it Swiss cheese or something. That deadline was March 5th. Now, that deadline has been extended for about a year due to actions with the courts. But I'm still asking this question because these kids are still held in limbo. Whatever happened to DACA? If you remember, I think I was in Oslo. Democrats shut down the government. It mattered to them so much, they shut down the United States government. Within 3 days, the government was reopened. Now, after the 3 days of them reopening the government, I shut down the government and all I got was a stupid t-shirt. They caved again, this time taking it off the menu, meaning the negotiation that they were taking place, and the reason they shut down the government, they literally took it off the table as point of negotiation to come up with a budget. It was important enough for them to shut down the government. 3 days later, they reopened the government and took it off the table in regards to being part of the negotiation. Nancy Pelosi saw this and was pissed off. Oh, those bastards in the Senate, how dare they? She also caved. So now the budget negotiation that was taking place no longer needed to include DACA in that particular negotiation, meaning Democrats had nothing to bargain with. And having nothing to bargain with, the deadline is up. If it wasn't for the courts stepping in, these kids would have been fair game, if I'm not mistaken, starting today. Right now, there's an action going on where several Muslim activists were arrested in the offices of Paul Ryan, demanding to be seen and demanding to, I guess, get an ear. One of the things that Democrats, in their agreement, whatever, if you want to call it an agreement, was to have Mitch McConnell hear them out and have Mitch McConnell take a vote. Now, the catch for this is, this was mightily bizarre because certainly the person who was negotiating this on the Democratic side to reopen the government had to understand that there are 3 branches of government, meaning you still needed Paul Ryan and you still needed Donald Trump. They had neither of the other two, and they didn't even have a yes vote from Mitch McConnell. They just had his yes to bring it up for debate, just for that specific part of the government. All of it was for show. All of it was theater. They wanted to rev up their base. They wanted to make it look like they gave it a show. We cared so much, we shut down the fucking government for you. Aren't you happy? Aren't you happy? It has gone to the activists to try to get something accomplished. Linda Sarsour arrested at Paul Ryan's office. Muslim American leaders have been arrested at the U.S. Capitol while urging Congress to stand against President Donald Trump's effort to end a program to protect certain young immigrants. Omar Suleiman, I think it's Suleiman. Omar Suleiman and Dawood Walid, Majid Fletcher, Talib Sharif, Niha Bawad of the Council of American Islamic Relations, Sawar Billow, I'm sorry, but these names, guys, and Linda Sarsour advocated immigration reform before getting arrested on Monday. The protesters participated in an act of civil disobedience at the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives, Paul Ryan, demanding that he meet with them to hear their concerns. Demonstrations have taken place in major cities across the United States in support of the Deferred Action Childhood Arrivals program that protects young undocumented immigrants from deportations. Fletcher, who also came to the United States as a child from Colombia, said he shared the experience of dreamers, people who came into the United States illegally as children. We don't want to live based on fear. We want to live according to the principles of freedom of speech, of religion, he said. Trump has long desired to end the renewal applications for the Deferred Action Childhood Arrivals program. Its recipients, known as Dreamers, were thrown into legal uncertainty after Trump moved last year to end the program, which protects hundreds of thousands of Dreamers. Trump gave legislators until March 5th to come up with a replacement before a Supreme Court ruling delayed the deadline as much as a year. He has been locked into bitter negotiations with Democrats about replacing the program in exchange for a raft of immigration overhauls that would end other avenues of legal immigration. You know when it would have been better to have that conversation? Before just randomly agreeing to the budget deal. That's when you should have had the conversation. At least in that part, you had leverage. It's the Republicans' responsibility. They have the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the presidency. If Republicans can't keep the House or they can't keep the government open, if they can't keep the lights on, that's on them. That's on them. You had a base and interest that you were supposed to represent. This does not look like the resistance to me. This does not look like the resistance to me. Good job for these people willing to put their bodies on the line to get something accomplished. I wish you had people in Congress who was backing you up. That's what I wish. So, I'll leave it at that. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, there's always Patreon. Thanks, everyone.